But the one thing that sticks out to me is I don't think Drake realizes he can't address the people around Kendrick. He has to address Kendrick for this to either A.
Alright, let's break this down. Drake has been pretty quiet lately, but let's be honest. There's one elephant in the room he can't ignore anymore. And with him rapping over this fire conductor beat, I'm going to dive into the Fighting Irish Freestyle and why I think it's his most calculated move since Family Matters. We'll talk about the shots he's taken, the victim narrative he's leaning into, and of course, the lingering shadow of Meet the Grams.
Let's dive in. Let's start with the fact that I think this was recorded before November at the very least. In the video, Drake has braids, and then if you look at his Instagram, you can put 2 and 2 together that he cut his braids around November. I also think a ton of the lyrical content is actually referring to shit that happened right after or right around the pop out. I just think the timing was very calculated with him dropping this right after LeBron's Man at the Garden video dropped while he was celebrating his birthday. We're going to dive into all that, but first I just want to say that the beat in combination with Drake's monotone raps feels very mafioso, which is something he's done in the past, especially on these last 3 projects. Throughout his freestyle, he's referencing betrayal, his own success, and attacks against his home. In the second verse, he even mentions payback and going to jail for retaliating against those that harmed him, or more specifically, his family. What I enjoyed about this track is the fact that he addressed a lot of the claims that Kendrick made, and he even kind of talked about his feelings towards some of those that were once his friends. One of those direct responses to Kendrick was saying that he doesn't have a drinking problem, he has a subtle addiction. And Drake, I'm here to tell you, you've got a drinking problem. And probably a lot of other people in the industry as well, you just don't realize it yet. I do think most of this track is targeted at LeBron, which brings me to my next chapter. For Drake to try to threaten LeBron and expose him just feels really silly. He has Drake tattooed, or Drake has LeBron tattooed on him. I also think it's very fair for LeBron to want to distance himself just for his family. That was one of the specific lines that Kendrick had, which doesn't make it right, but at the end of the day, if your wife is hearing shit like this, she's probably gonna come to you and say, hey, I don't think this guy is such a good man. I also think 2024 was the year of exposure, and we saw a lot of celebrities fall from grace. And whether you stood by them or stood silent, a lot of people got caught in the crossfire. I also find it hilarious that Drake equates gift giving, where he gave LeBron that watch, to actually building friendship and bonds, and most importantly, loyalty. I think it speaks to the type of man that Drake is, and also some of the problems that Kendrick addressed when he was talking to Drake. At the end of the first verse, he talks about cold shoulders in the Hamptons. I think it was very clever wordplay, and I think that this line could either refer to Lil Wayne or Jay-Z. Now, if we rewind a little bit, we saw Drake post this cryptic image of Solange, and if you know Jay-Z and Solange, you know that their history is a bit complicated, especially when it comes to elevators. But there were rumors that Lil Wayne and Drake were both at that party and completely avoided each other. Needless to say, I'm here for all the drama that comes from these white parties, so Michael Rubin, keep it up. During this freestyle, he also directly responds to his home being shot up and a member of his entourage or security being shot out front. Now, this happened less than 12 months ago, so it feels like it might still be an open investigation, but I guess Drake doesn't care and still wants to put it on wax. Needless to say, the famous pop star that he's alleging has been pretty quiet lately, but he has an album coming up in January, so maybe we'll get more details then. Also, here's a funny article that you should read about this alleged pop star just being kind of ruthless and not going to jail for other shit. Now, I saw the reaction to this track, and it seemed like sides were divided. People thought it was really good, they thought the conductor beat was fire, but they felt like it was Drake saying, woe is me. Again, while I do think some of the betrayal he's rapping about is self-inflicted wounds, he is the victim. From May all the way up until February, Drake is going to continue getting his ass beat by one man. Post Super Bowl, they're going on the Grand National Tour, it might continue until the summer. But the one thing that sticks out to me is I don't think Drake realizes he can't address the people around Kendrick. He has to address Kendrick for this to either A, go away, B, simmer down a little bit, or C, reignite and go for a round 2. Now, obviously, we heard Kendrick in the Super Bowl ad say there's no round 2s.
You know, it's only one opportunity to win a championship. No round 2s. Let's get it.
But he'd enjoy a round 2. I also think Drake has to realize, fuck your so-called friends and just either focus on the man that punched you in the mouth or forget about it. And that brings me to my next chapter, which is the lasting effects of Meet the Grams. I truly do think that Drake thought that Family Matters was going to be the knockout punch or really scar Kendrick and his reputation. But when Meet the Grams dropped that night, it felt like Kendrick just stepped on all of the momentum that Drake was building up.
Fucking way.
I think this dug into his ego and made him do a little bit of self-reflecting, which we're seeing on this track. Then the follow-up of Not Like Us made Drake realize this is bigger than just rap. This isn't a normal rap beat. And I think that's when he really sat down and kind of processed some of this and said, I'm gonna sue this guy. Now let's rewind a little bit. Following Drake taking that L from Pusha T, he still had a ton of tracks that were ringing off in the streets following Scorpion. Him dropping 100 gigs felt like to me that they were a bunch of filler tracks that he wasn't as confident going into dropping. In the end, that's all they were. A lot of them got taken down, some of the footage got taken down from my UMG allegedly, but for it to not really come from Drake's mouth, it just felt odd. Usually he's the guy that recovers with a hit. He'll come back with a banger like it's nothing. But this time I think he realized the tide is turning and it's definitely not in his favor. Some of the claims that Kendrick made in that track, whether they're true or not, whether you believe them or not, it's hard to recover from. And the simple fact of it is, more people believed Kendrick or resonated with what Kendrick was saying than Drake thought they would initially. He made enemies out of friends in the industry and it's coming back to bite him now. More of the story to me is, don't tattoo people on you unless they're dead. This is the most quality Drake we've gotten in a while, so I really do hope you guys are enjoying it. Plus the conductor production is just so good. Now before you like, comment, and subscribe, a question that I have for you is, do you think Drake and Conductor strategically put this out and took down the track on purpose? Or do you think Lucian and UMG put in that call and said, yo, this is coming down? Either way, that's the part I can't really figure out, is like, how calculated are these moves? And how does and will the lawsuit come into play for the rest of his releases going forward?